Hey there, I'm Memory and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving headfirst into a period that redefined the world, the first half of the 20th century from 1900 to 1945. Buckle up because we're talking about two world wars, revolutions that shook empires, and enough social and technological change to make your head spin. Seriously, this era is packed, but don't worry, we're in this together. If you're new here and you're as excited about exploring the past as I am, make sure you hit that subscribe button and become one of the memory maniacs. We're on the verge of hitting 20,000 subscribers, which is mind-blowing. Your support means everything, and it helps more people learn about these incredible stories. Before we get started, let me know in the comments what specific events or figures from this period you're most curious about. Did your great-grandparents live through World War II? Are you fascinated by the Russian Revolution? Hit me with your questions and let's get this historical adventure started. Okay, so picture this. It's 1914. Europe is a powder keg of nationalism, imperialism, and tangled alliances. All it takes is a spark. And that spark, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. Boom! Suddenly, it's all-out war, and not just a war, but a world war. The Central Powers, led by Germany and Austria-Hungary, squared off against the Allied powers France, Britain, Russia, and eventually the United States. Now I could spend hours talking about the trenches, the battles, the technologies, and the sheer brutality of this war. But what's crucial to understand is how deeply this war scarred the world. Millions died, empires crumbled, and the Treaty of Versailles, meant to ensure peace, ended up sowing the seeds for future conflict. You see, the treaty blamed Germany for the war and slapped them with crippling reparations. This humiliation and resentment festered within Germany, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies like Nazism to take root. Think about it. How do you rebuild a society, a national identity after such devastation? How do you even begin to heal the psychological wounds? The First World War wasn't just a war, it was a seismic shift in history, leaving the world reeling and unsure of what the future held. The years between the wars from 1919 to 1939 weren't exactly a walk in the park either. In fact, they were a breeding ground for even greater global unrest. Remember Russia, who'd been part of the Allied powers? Well, they were going through their own revolution. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, overthrew the Tsar and established the Soviet Union, the world's first communist state. This sent shockwaves through the world, inspiring socialist movements and sparking fear of communist expansion among capitalist nations. And as if a revolution wasn't enough, the world was hit by the Great Depression in 1929. Economies crashed, unemployment soared, and people were desperate for solutions. It was the perfect storm for extremist ideologies to rise to power. In Italy, we saw Benito Mussolini and his fascist party, while in Germany, fueled by the humiliation of the Treaty of Versailles, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party gained traction. Fear, nationalism, and promises of economic revival were powerful motivators. Meanwhile, the rest of the world, still recovering from the First World War, adopted a policy of appeasement, hoping to avoid another devastating conflict. It was a dangerous gamble, one that ultimately failed to prevent the inevitable. And so, in 1939, the world found itself engulfed in yet another global conflict, World War II. Hitler's invasion of Poland shattered any hope of peace, and the world braced itself for another round of unprecedented violence and destruction. This time, the Axis powers, led by Germany, Italy, and Japan, faced off against the Allies, primarily Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. World War II was a truly global conflict, fought on land, sea, and air, from the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of the Pacific. It was a war marked by unimaginable atrocities, including the Holocaust, the systematic genocide of 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime. Let me repeat that. 6 million innocent lives extinguished simply for who they were. But amidst the darkness, there were glimmers of hope. The Allied victory in 1945 marked the end of the war and the defeat of fascism. It also led to the formation of the United Nations, an international organization dedicated to preventing future conflicts and promoting global cooperation. However, the world had been irrevocably changed. The war left millions dead, cities in ruins, and a profound sense of loss and uncertainty. Out of the ashes of World War II emerged a new world order, one dominated by the United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a Cold War that would define the latter half of the 20th century. Chapter 4. Beyond the battlefields. Social and cultural upheaval. While wars raged and empires crumbled, another revolution was taking place, a social and cultural one. The first half of the 20th century saw a dramatic shift in the role of women in society. World War I had forced women into the workforce, filling roles traditionally held by men. This experience challenged traditional gender roles and paved the way for greater social and political rights for women in the decades that followed. Meanwhile, the world was rapidly changing thanks to technological and scientific advancements. The development of the radio, the automobile, and the airplane transformed communication, transportation, and warfare. In the realm of science, Albert Einstein's theory of relativity revolutionized our understanding of the universe, while the discovery of penicillin ushered in a new era of medicine. And let's not forget the profound changes in art and literature. The horrors of war and the anxieties of a rapidly changing world found expression in movements like Dadaism, Surrealism, and Modernism. Artists and writers grappled with themes of disillusionment, alienation, and the search for meaning in a world seemingly gone mad. Chapter 5. The Sun Sets on Empire, Anti-Colonial Struggles. The first half of the 20th century also witnessed the beginning of the end for European colonialism. World War II, in particular, had weakened the European powers, making it increasingly difficult for them to maintain their grip on their colonies. In India, Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent resistance movement gained momentum, ultimately leading to India's independence in 1947. Across Africa, too, the demand for self-determination grew louder and louder. From Ghana to Algeria, people rose up against colonial rule, demanding an end to oppression and exploitation. These anti-colonial struggles were often long and bloody, but they ultimately paved the way for the emergence of newly independent nations in the decades following World War II. The dismantling of European empires was a momentous shift in global power dynamics, but it also left many newly independent nations grappling with the challenges of building new societies and economies. Chapter 6. A Shrinking World, Global Interconnectedness. Despite the wars and conflicts, the first half of the 20th century witnessed a growing interconnectedness between people and cultures across the globe. Improved communication and transportation played a significant role in this trend. The development of the radio, for example, allowed for the instantaneous transmission of news and information across vast distances, while the expansion of air travel made it easier for people to travel to different parts of the world. Global trade also increased during this period as countries became more economically interdependent. This exchange of goods and services fostered cultural exchange and introduced people to new ideas and ways of life. Furthermore, the rise of mass media, particularly film and music, played a crucial role in spreading cultural influences across borders. Hollywood films, for instance, became popular worldwide, while jazz music from the United States captivated audiences across the globe. The Chapter 7. Revolutionaries and Red Flags, Seeds of Change. We've already touched on the Russian Revolution, but its impact reverberated throughout the 20th century. The Bolsheviks' success in establishing a communist state inspired revolutionary movements worldwide, from China to Cuba. The idea of a classless society free from exploitation resonated with many who felt marginalized and oppressed by capitalist systems. The Russian Revolution also sparked fear and paranoia in the West, fueling anti-communist sentiment and contributing to the Cold War tensions that would dominate the latter half of the century. Speaking of revolutions brewing over in China, another monumental shift was about to shake the world. The Chinese Communist Party, led by Mao Zedong, was gaining strength, challenging the ruling nationalist government. While the Chinese Revolution wouldn't fully triumph until 1949, its roots were firmly planted in the first half of the 20th century. Fueled by social unrest, economic inequality, and the desire for a new political order, the ramifications of both the Russian and Chinese revolutions would be felt for decades to come, shaping global politics, ideologies, and power dynamics. Outro. Until next time, the journey continues. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From the devastation of two world wars to the rise and fall of empires, the first half of the 20th century was a period of immense change and upheaval. It was a time that tested humanity's resilience, challenged our assumptions, and ultimately reshaped the world as we know it. If you found this deep dive into history as fascinating as I did, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future historical adventures. Most importantly, keep those questions coming. What other historical periods or events would you like to explore next? Let me know in the comments below, and who knows, maybe your suggestion will be our next big historical deep dive.